Malone TV News, man. We be in these streets. You dig?
Come and take a camera flash. Jury game amazing. Car game crazy. Gucci Mela flap. Won't you tell me city sight chase? When I hit the mall, let him cook now. Let him cook. I got.
Comfy all day, been there. Switched to Just Hoods last month. Best decision ever. My family wears them, from my niece to my uncle. Total game changer. Super soft cotton poly mix means all day comfort, whether lounging at home or out exploring. And the unisex fit, on point for anyone, anywhere. Snag yours now for just $50. Trust me, once you try Just Hoods, you won't go back. Grab one before they sell out. Don't miss out. Click buy now and elevate your wardrobe today.
And we back with another one, man. You know what I'm saying? Malone TV News. It's your boy CM the Goat 5. Back with another one. You know what I'm saying? This one right here just caught my eye. So I was just strolling across my YouTube channel, and I seen it about the Colombian Hitwoman that got captured. So we finna get on into that one right there, the one that they call the doll. So let's get into that. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know what I'm saying? Smash that like button, share. So let's get into it. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's see. Okay. Here we go.
But now she's behind bars for an alleged hit against her ex-boyfriend. Lots of twists and turns in this case, so let's start with the basics. This is 22-year-old Karen Ojeda Rodriguez. She's allegedly part of a Colombian gang called Los de la M. The group is known for being dominant in their specific region of Colombia, fighting with other gangs for control of all the criminal activity, specifically drug trafficking. In this region, there have been more than 120 murders in 2024, and several have been pretty high profile. So here's where Rodriguez specifically comes in. She's apparently been part of this gang since she was about 18 years old. She worked her way up, if that's what you want to call it, to becoming a criminal hit woman, the one who made the calls for those under her to carry out the hits. In this particular instance, Rodriguez is accused of coordinating a hit on her ex-boyfriend. According to local news outlets, her ex-partner was a man named Davy Jesus, known in the gang world as Orejas, or ears. So Rodriguez apparently orchestrated the hit against him as two other men drove by on motorcycles shooting at him. This was allegedly a part of a money dispute between Ears and the doll. So eventually Rodriguez was picked up by the police along with another one of her co-workers, for lack of a better term. This other suspect is a man known by the alias of Leopoldo. Now, Colombian authorities found them in possession of a 9mm handgun and are now putting the gun through ballistic tests to determine whether it was used in this particular murder. So far, we don't know what charges Rodriguez or this Leopoldo character are facing, but it's in relation to this gang activity and at least one murder. Hey, I know you're multitasking when you're watching our videos. So if you are out and running errands, you have to download this new app called Upside. It gives you cash back on daily essentials. I use Upside every time I pump my gas because it's so easy and it's free. So why not? Here's what you do. Download the Upside app and claim an offer for whatever you're buying. So you just pay as usual and follow the steps on the app to get paid. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside, or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code LCNews to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Now, this is a bizarre story we're covering today. Let's bring in Meg Strickler, a criminal defense attorney with an emphasis in international law. Meg, thank you for coming on with us today.
Happy to be here.
Now, this story, when I started reading up on it, to me, it almost sounds like a movie. I mean, we have this young woman in her young 20s. She's apparently this assassin with a long background and all of that. I mean, it kind of sounds like a story. So this stuff really happens?
Yeah, unfortunately, I actually do drug trafficking cases. And so you would be very surprised how much of it goes on, and how pervasive it is, and how much money there is. And so when you have a lot of money involved, you're going to have murder. And I think that's unfortunate, but therein lies the issue with the entire drug scene globally.
Does it make things more complicated that this is a gang-related crime? I know that you do some background in the drug trafficking. Obviously, that's involved here. Does it make things more difficult for investigators and prosecutors?
Yeah, because normally, as with any kind of gang thought process, is that you're going to have multi-spokes of a wheel, if that makes sense. So the wheel will turn, but you have multi-spokes doing the different things. So this person's not going to know what this person is doing, and this person's not going to know what this person is doing. So if you bust this person, they can't necessarily flip on the others. And so it's a well-oiled machine as a result, and do not wish to liken this to running a business, but it really is. It's like running a business. So they know how to run it efficiently so that all the spokes in the wheel run independent of each other. And then also if one goes down, they know how to make sure the other ones stay going so the wheel keeps turning. I mean, it's a really fascinating but yet scary concept.
That's a really good description that you gave there. I really like that because it makes sense in a way what they're trying to accomplish. But also another question of mine with the gang-related stuff. If they do know what their coworker, for lack of a better term, is doing, they probably don't want to turn on them or flip, as you said, because they're so insular and connected. Is that right?
Yeah, now I'll talk broadly about gangs because I don't want to speak specifically to this gang or any other gangs but in general, a gang is like a family. And so you sign on to the family and then you treat them like family from there on after. So as soon as you're part of a gang and have been initiated in a gang and perhaps get tattoos, there's all this family language, shall we call it. And as a result, you'll never, ever, 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 ever turn on a family member, their blood. So the gang part is real. It is very much part of our world today, and in the United States especially. It's not just Colombia. It's in other countries as well, and then also in our country. As you probably are aware, there are many, many gangs, and then there's initiation, and then there's also what's kind of interesting is, again, it's like a corporation. There are different levels, and then they have actually titles. And it's a very thought out, very real process to be initiated, to then to stay in. And then there's like OGs and there's governors and there's all this term of art. And I'm not making these things up. And as a result, once you're in the gang, they all got your back, like family.
I'm glad that you broke it down in that way, kind of like job titles, because that makes it easier for all of us to understand. And in this specific case, this woman who was known as the Doll, this elite, I guess you could say, assassin. She's only 22 though. So that stood out to me right away, but she's right at the top. She's kind of pulling the strings. How would it be that she could have worked her way up so quickly and she's so young?
That one I questioned. I'll be honest with you. I questioned that because if you're only on the earth 22 years, how much could you have accomplished? And so I do think she's worked herself up, but I could virtually guarantee there are other people above her. And so she may be high up, but we're talking about organizations that this big, she may be here. There's no way she's at the top because she's only 22. There's just no way. There's no way. But yeah, she worked herself up because sadly you can start at these gangs at 12 or 13. I would hope this isn't the case, but if she starts off doing the things that is alleged, and it's been a decade now, she's probably honed her skill. And I really shudder to say that, but it sounds like that's what the case is.
I dare you to let me build you a completely free e-commerce store preloaded with 20.
I think you're right, because she has apparently been involved with a lot of other hits, apparently, and she hasn't been arrested until now. It kind of leads into the story we're talking about today, the fact that it was her ex-boyfriend who was shot and killed, murdered in some sort of hit, and it sounds like she was the one behind it, pulling the strings. How does all of that work for investigators to get in and say, okay, we need her, she's the one who's behind all of this, and we're going to arrest her and charge her?
Well, again, I don't know Colombian law, but I'll just speak here in the States. How the government here, and I'm sure it's probably similar concepts. We have RICO and we have conspiracy. So if we can link her to this, this, and this, but not this, guess what? Those spokes in the wheel I spoke of, you could be part of that one in the United States, be part of the spokes, and then the conspiracy is what gets you. And that's one of the reasons why they created that statute, was to try to wrap themselves around the concept of how do I get them when they weren't necessarily related to that, but we know it's all related. That's why RICO Mafia, that's why you think of RICO. And then you immediately think, oh, it kind of happened back in the early 70s with the Mafia. And that's true. And we still use it today. And sometimes it's obviously abused because I live in Atlanta. RICO is meant to get these kinds of storylines and to be able to get where she was involved and then show the overarching term of art here in the United States is relevant conduct to then inculpate her for everything.
So because of RICO, if they have something similar down in Colombia, could this then open the investigation into other connected crimes as far as their criminal activity within the gang? Maybe not her per se, but someone she knows of. I mean, could this be just the tip of the iceberg?
It probably will be. Nothing ever happens in a vacuum. And so my guess is they can certainly work to just get her on this one issue. And that might be their mindset. Or as they start investigating and get people's phones and start doing wiretaps or whatever, surveillance, tracking their cars, whatever they're doing, it may blow up into other things and may even lead into investigative threads they didn't even know about yet, and might end up in subsequent prosecutions that we wouldn't be able to wrap our brains around today. But 2 years from now, the threads came from today and her phone, perhaps.
I'm glad you brought up the investigation side of things, because that's what almost sounds like a movie, because you're talking about mafia, the wiretap, things like that. And honestly, in a lot of our stories here on Law and Crime, we talk about phones because we have them with us all the time. We have data, our call log, so much information in our phones. But these people obviously know that the feds are going to be watching them. Do you think that makes things harder? They might have burner phones. They might be more suspicious of these possible wiretaps, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring up a current case I have. This particular person had 5 phones as part of the investigation, and then they linked him to a where his original country was, a phone there too. And so they were able to kind of tell by kind of collecting up, because they use cell phone data, the towers. And so that if I'm sitting here in my office and I have this phone, I only have one, but if I have this phone, they'll see what I'm making those calls on, and then they'll then extrapolate the other phones and then learn what his new burner phone is. So in normal prosecutions of high level, they're going to have wiretaps of 20, 30 phones. And for the example I just used, this particular client had 5 of them. And so then you have 5 Celebrate, if they seize the phones, 5 Celebrate phones to look through. But the worst part is I'm just going to rub my head because it gives me a headache to think about, is all the wiretap data that you have to listen to and you have to run through. And then here's the extra fun wrinkle. It'll be in a different language. And I don't speak extra languages. So, I mean, then you have to have them translate it. So that will happen in this scenario because they're obviously going to be speaking Spanish. But if they're speaking a different language as well, that adds a fun wrinkle. And then here's the best part. They try to speak in code. So they'll talk about donuts, zips, watermelons, avocados. I can't think of, there's a billion of them. They all come up with silly codes, or one time it was like paying rent and these kinds of things. Those concepts, they then get in my case is they get the agent to come in and testify as an expert. And he'll say, well, watermelons mean this, or avocados mean this. And then we lose if we go to trial, if they're believed, the agents are believed.
It's so easy to become a podcaster with Riverside. You just need a concept and a way to record it. First, go to riverside.fm and
It's an overwhelming amount of information because so many people are involved in these criminal organizations. So you're right to say, could give you a headache. It's just overwhelming for me to even think about. What about the possibility, though, of someone going undercover and actually immersing themselves within this game?
That's very normal. You'll usually get a low-end person who, who might be just a small drug seller, and then they might be able to then link up to somebody else. I don't know. That's one issue. The other thing is sometimes you can flip a higher end person who then do what we call controlled buys or controlled phone calls and then inculpate the others. That can happen. It just doesn't happen too often because it's a deadly situation. If you did that and then those people found out that you did that, unfortunately, then there can be a hit on that person's life and this young lady will be out there killing her, him, whoever it is. Very scary.
What about the weapons? You brought up killing people. Obviously, that's a big thing with all of this. We're talking about assassins here, and they're using guns, but I'm just going to assume that they're scratching off the serial numbers or they're getting them illegally in some way, so it will be difficult to trace them to the weapons. Does that make things even more complicated?
Yeah, the guns are a hard discussion for me because if you could, sometimes I like to think what I could do to figure out a way to eradicate some of this stuff. And you're absolutely right. The guns are as pervasive as M&Ms. They're everywhere. And yeah, of course, if I'm a convicted felon, I'm not supposed to have a gun. And so, there are a lot of guns that are illegal. So in other words, if you're going to allege that somebody has a gun, they may not have gone and bought it and registered it and then have that be their own gun. It's all illegal, okay? And so then there's a whole business also with gun trafficking. So there's drug trafficking, gun trafficking, and human trafficking. And there's money in all of it because, of course, there are needs to use these guns for bad things. And so, of course, then there's people who want to supply the guns and then money, money, money. It's a very sad situation.
So if we're going back to the defendant in this case, the doll, as she's called, right now we don't know the specific charges that she faces. Colombian authorities have not released those. Could you infer what you think she could be charged with?
I do think some sort of RICO, whatever Colombian RICO there might be out there. And I do some cases internationally, obviously. And so there are those concepts in many other countries. We all have cases and laws that are very similar. She also, here's the part where I haven't mentioned yet, is the money, money, money. She could be involved in some sort of money laundering as well. And so that might be something they could hook her on, would be the money laundering or the tax evasion. So there's other ways to get her that I didn't even mention yet that sometimes the government uses. Again, Al Capone comes to mind. That's how they got him. There are other ways. So the obvious are murder, the RICO, the conspiracy to involve her in other relevant conduct of drug trafficking. But then also let's start looking at her finances because she's 22. Does she pay taxes? What does her bank accounts look like? Does she have businesses? Do these businesses, money launder? So they're digging every which way.
It's just an overwhelming task that the Colombian authorities have ahead of them going down the road of this investigation. Definitely one we're going to want to keep an eye on. Meg, thank you for coming on and breaking it all down for us.
Of course, happy to be here.
Definitely an interesting case, to say the least, one that will continue to follow. Reporting for Lone Crime, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Shorty got doing out there, got doing in Colombia, doing the craziness. You know what I mean? Like for real. She out there got doing getting scandalous. Like really getting busy out there. You know what I'm saying? So Yeah, they better be glad they got her off the street because she really out there doing it. I just wanted to bring that up, you know what I'm saying? I ran across that video and want you guys to check it out. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel, man. Smash that like button, you know what I'm saying? See him to go 5, man, you know what I'm saying? Back with another one, on to the next. We out. Deuces.